Hey, you can get some cool and fun rewards for helping me help kids. Stick around after the video for more information. Alright, well, my editing skills are crap, but can the same thing be said about Blade Runner 2049? Stick around and find out. That's what the music to this movie sounds like to me. Let's wake you up now. Wake you up with this super loud synth trumpets. Hi, I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. This is my uncut review of Blade Runner 2049. Just a little bit of background. I've seen the original Blade Runner at least twice, maybe 3 times, at different times of my life. And I've never really enjoyed it. I much prefer movies that were inspired by it in terms of visually, but the pacing of that movie is just so slow for me. Even going in knowing, okay, this is not a sci-fi action movie or anything like that, even going in with that, it's like, this is slow. So I was really curious what they were going to do with the sequel, if they were going to hang on to those elements of the original in addition to, you know, all the other things that Blade Runner is known for. So anyway, the synopsis on IMDb provided by Warner Brothers reads, 30 years after the events of the first film, a new Blade Runner, LAPD Officer K, played by Ryan Gosling, unearths a long-buried secret that has the potential to plunge what's left of society into chaos. K's discovery leads him on a quest to find Rick Deckard, played by Harrison Ford, a former LAPD Blade Runner who has been missing for 30 years. All right, so it's dystopian sci-fi mystery is how I would describe it. So, which is very much, I think, like what the first one was. You know, it's not an action movie. Very little action, actually, in this. It's much like the first in terms of its pacing and its tone. It felt very slow to me, with most shots going about 3 seconds longer than I would like. If I were to re-edit this movie, almost every shot I would snip like 3 seconds off of. And there are also often lengthy silences, which would, you know, be fine in a lot of other movies, but there's also little visually happening in those instances as well to move the story forward or say something more about the characters. I mean, maybe there'll be little things about the world itself and that maybe if you really look deep contribute to the themes that they're playing with, but you know, to me, it just felt really, really slow. Way too slow for me. It has a running time of about 2 hours and 45 minutes, and I think it could have been 2 hours easy and would have been improved for my tastes. As far as the cast goes, the performances I felt like were all solid for, you know, what I like, and I felt, if anything, they elevated the script, bringing some layers and subtext, you know, that weren't necessarily on the written page. They probably were in the notes of the script, you know, for all I know. But anyway, you know, there was, you know, some good performances, but it still wasn't enough to get me invested because the character motivations as it was written were just far too often below the surface, and too below the surface for me to feel invested really in any of the characters. So that was a bit of a bummer for me. As far as the stunts and visuals go, I thought the visuals were great. It was similar industrial design to the first movie, but it takes us to new environments and a little more daylight in this movie, and so it kind of expands the world while still being true to, I think, a lot of the visual design of the first one. And, you know, you can also believe that it's been 30 years and that things have changed a little bit. You know, there's some clever hologram effects, especially with the main character, his female holographic girlfriend. And thematically, there's kind of some interesting things that they're maybe playing with there, which are not in my notes for theme, so I'll just mention them right now. Just the idea of not investing in real human relationships and instead being content to just surround ourselves with entertainment stimulation and letting those be in the place of relationships, you know, or only opening ourselves up to very limited forms of relationships, such as like online, you know, friendships and stuff like that. So there's potentially some commentary or some thought, you know, to be had about that theme. I played with that theme myself in the third part of the Spirit Blade audio drama trilogy, Spirit Blade: A World of Shadows, And yeah, I think that they didn't go into it, maybe as deeply as I would like. Obviously, I liked playing with that theme more, so I went into it more deeply myself. But I still thought that they gave a good treatment of it. I mean, at least for me, while I was looking at that relationship, I felt sad that Ryan Gosling, his most meaningful relationship for much of the movie, was with this digital human being. Although there was kind of a nod or a moment after that he had with a human character that suggested, oh, now he's maybe moving on and opening up to more relationships with actual human beings. So there was a little bit of an interesting arc there, and it was served, coming back to visual effects, by how they did the visual effects. There was some interesting just kind of overlapping with the hologram and the environments that it was in, overlapping with another actor and stuff. They just kind of did some interesting things with that. Let's see here. Unfortunately, as far as visuals go, the camera also objectifies women various times throughout the movie, including briefly shown yet repeatedly utilized female nudity. So that was a bummer. That alone would make this a non-purchase for me if I didn't already find so much of the movie uninteresting as it is. As far as I don't often comment on music and sound, but I will briefly here. This was interesting to me. I thought that in the original Blade Runner, there were times where I was like, I'm having trouble making out what this person is saying. Like, there's too much background noise going on that's getting in the way. And I feel like, starting with around Christopher Nolan, when his movies started getting big, we started seeing more movies being mixed in a way where, like, the intelligibility of the dialogue was less of a priority than some of the other things going on. Like when Bane is talking in the third Christopher Nolan Batman movie, it's kind of hard to understand what he's saying, And yeah, and so this movie is like, I guess they felt like that was an essential part of the original Blade Runner, to have dialogue that was kind of hard to hear over the the ambient noise in the environment, because they did that again. There was a times where I was like, hey, can we turn down this machinery, or hey, can we back off the ocean a little bit? I kind of want to hear what Harrison Ford is saying. And other times, even in quiet scenes, the dialogue would still be just kind of muttered and stuff, or off from a distance, a character would be talking in kind of a light tone, and the echo ambiance of the room, is just, it obscures the dialogue a little bit. So it's kind of some weird choices. And then every once in a while, there's, as with the original Blade Runner, I remember it being very soft at times and then being very loud at other times. So there's this wide range in terms of the decibel level of what that movie was like. And likewise in this movie, you'd have these muttered conversations, and then in a scene transition, you get the synth brass going, and I'm like, holy crap, there's not even anything exciting happening. Is this supposed to build tension for me right now? Like, did something significant happen in the plot that I just missed? It almost seemed to like not have a rhyme or reason as to why the synth brass would come in. It's just like, here's a new establishing shot for a different part of the city that we're going to take the story to now, and while we establish the shot, we're gonna... So... yeah, I mean, I get its relationship to conjuring what the original movie was like, but I don't see how in and of itself right now it was helping the story. So anyway, as far as like relevance, I always try to ask myself when I'm engaging in entertainment, is there anything of worthwhile moral, philosophical, spiritual significance going on here that might kind of bring about some worthwhile thought in me, or some conversation as I'm talking to other people about this thing? AI was definitely a significant theme. I often have problems with stories about artificial intelligence because they usually try to create a question in the mind of the audience about whether or not an AI character is just as much a person as a human being, from Short Circuit to Terminator to what was that one? I can't remember. The guy who made... I don't remember. If these weren't uncut reviews, I'd be able to look it up and I'd have that name for you right now. But there was like sometimes they'll make them cute and adorable AIs that we're supposed to fall in love with, and sometimes they'll, anyway. They often try to put that question in your mind, is this just as much a person as a human being is a person? And yet, they very often, most times, pose this question in an assumed naturalistic framework, in which humans are only physical in their makeup. But if humans are only physical beings, well then of course we can allow even the cell phones of tomorrow to feel entitled to human rights if they can convincingly display simulated emotional expressions. I mean, who are we to judge, right? But I believe persons, by definition, have a non-physical component. That's a vital part of what makes persons persons. So if a story doesn't allow for a way in which an AI can gain a non-physical soul of some kind, that AI is just going to be a toaster to me, no matter how much the filmmakers want me to fall in love with it. At least in the case of Johnny Five and the old Short Circuit movie, it was a lightning bolt. And you could argue that somehow God chose to bring that about or something. It was clearly this like crazy, arguably supernatural event that happened with this lightning striking, So, but I mean, like in other stuff, like in the case of Data in Star Trek, I don't remember anything in Star Trek fans can correct me if I'm wrong on this. I don't remember there being any suggestion that there was a spiritual element involved in his creation or a supernatural element. It seemed to be purely a bunch of ones and zeros and hardware at work in creating Data, and yet we are very frequently in that show asked to invest in him as a character, invest in him as a person. That's how he's written. That's how he's performed by Brent Spiner, or is it? I think it's Spiner. Is that how you say his name? Anyway, but Blade Runner 2049 is a bit different. I don't remember what the lore of the original movie is, so I'm not going to factor that in. I'm just going to ignore that for the sake of this just kind of reflection. But the on-screen text at the start of this movie says that replicants, which are artificially made kind of these humanoid things, are defined as replicants are bioengineered humans, which I took to mean that, okay, whatever the method and whatever the modifications to their capacity for, whatever the method for their creation and whatever the modifications to their capacity for emotion or for making decisions or whatever, these are humans. They're bioengineered, adjective, noun, humans. So they're arguably damaged humans in the same way that some medical conditions can affect emotions. They can deaden emotions, or they can affect decision-making in some way, but we would still call people with those conditions human. Of course we would. But they're still, humans rather than, the replicants then are still actually humans rather than highly advanced machines made of water and protein that are just really good at fooling people into thinking that they're displaying emotions and stuff like that. So that was based on the text at the beginning, which when they present text at the beginning of a movie like that, unless there's a little quote at the bottom, so, from the book of blah, 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 or if you hear a character narrating that or whatever, if it's not one of those things, we should take that as this is objective reality for the setting of this movie. And the objective reality set up in this movie is that replicants are humans. They're a specific type of human, but they are humans even though in the world they are being treated as non-humans and treated as slaves as a result of that. So even so, that doing that took away the question I think that I meant to ask. I could be wrong. I don't know what the filmmaker's intent is here, but I think I'm still meant to ask through at least part of this movie whether or not replicants deserve human rights and deserve my sympathy as a viewer. I think pretty early on they're trying to make us feel sympathetic, toward the replicants. But I mean, sometimes filmmakers can do that, but still want you to wonder, are they really, persons or not? So, but I mean, as far as that opening text is concerned, I'm like, well, of course they deserve human rights. Of course they deserve my sympathy as a viewer. That you just told me they were human, So, but I will say that while that hurt my engagement a little bit as a viewer, it took away that kind of wondering of, are they human or are they not? I did appreciate that the script did not decisively claim or decisively imply, based on just the logic of the world, that true persons can be created through purely physical means, which is most often the case in AI movies where we are asked to identify with or have sympathy for the AI character. I think that Battlestar Galactica, of course the recent series, not the one from the 70s or whatever the crap, but the recent Battlestar Galactica is has the best handling of this idea that I've seen for my taste, in terms of like leaving the question up in the air, because the Cylons were cold and sometimes unfeeling enemies for much of the series, but a few of them changed over time, or we learned that they were different from others. And it was also suggested at one point in the series that God provided the Cylons souls, at the moment that they were first created, as though he quietly and uninvitedly was involving himself in the creation of the Cylon race, despite humans doing the physical manufacturing and being unaware of God's involvement. So they allowed, at least for that possibility, that, by having one of the Cylons say, no, this is what happened. We do have souls. God inserted them during the creation process, So that allows me as a viewer who does not hold to a naturalistic worldview to say to myself, well, maybe they are persons and not just like brilliantly deceptive simulations of persons. So anyway, I have no idea what your tastes are in movies, but if I were a time traveler, I would go back in time and say, Peter, guess what? No shocker here. Skip this one. It's just as boring to you as the original. Instead, go watch some movies that were inspired by the original Blade Runner. You tend to enjoy those a lot more than the actual source material itself. It's rated R for violence, some sexuality, nudity, and language. All right, those are my thoughts. I'd love to get yours in the comments below. And then also, please consider supporting this channel by becoming a Spirit Blade Insider, which grants you exclusive monthly behind-the-scenes content. For more info about that, you can visit our About page at spiritblade.com, and while you're there, you can also check out our audio dramas and the weekly podcast, the Spirit Blade Underground podcast. And if you want, like, share, and subscribe, that does help out this channel a bit, so I'd appreciate that. Finally, there's a ton more content and community over at christiangeekcentral.com, so I hope you'll join us there soon as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. Hey guys, Peter Franson here from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. For my 4th consecutive year, I'm participating in Extra Life. It's a charity event that raises funds to provide medical care for children that are in urgent need. I'm also leading the Christian Geek Central Extra Life team, which you're still invited to join by following the link in the description below. There's also a link down there to my fundraising page, which details rewards that you can get for donating. You can shut me up and just skip there right now, or stick around and I'll give you some more details. Once again this year, I'm going to be drawing attention to our team's fundraising by performing a 24-hour video gaming marathon that I'm going to be streaming live on youtube.com/ChristianGeekCentral and also at ChristianGeekCentral.com. That's going to start at 6 a.m. Pacific on Saturday, November 4th. You're invited to donate to any member of our team by following the link to our team page in the description below. Our combined team goal this year is to raise $750 for this event. That's $250 more than last year's goal, but I think we can totally do that and even blow it out of the water with your help. You'll also find some fun incentives and rewards for donating toward our team members' efforts. Speaking for myself, I've cooked up some new rewards and brought back some standards from previous years. These rewards for my personal fundraising are now tier-based. And that means, for example, that donating $20 will get you the reward for the $20 level, the $10 level, and the $5 level. Here's the breakdown of what you can get for donating toward my particular fundraising efforts. At $5, you can choose a topic to add to my +2 page of many topics. Topics will be randomly selected from this document for me to share my overly strong opinions on during my live stream. At $10, you also get a download code for the Spirit Blade Legacy Edition audio drama. $20 gets you all that, plus you can choose a game for me to play during my November 4th live stream. You can pick a favorite or torture me with something terrible. $30 gets you all that, plus you can choose a song for me to sing during my November 4th live stream. Again, you can pick an old favorite of yours or just make me humiliate myself with something awful. And at $50, you get all of those rewards, plus you receive a download code for every MP3 product available at spiritblade.com. That's audio dramas and music. It's over a $90 value. Now, there are some stipulations and time limits on those rewards, so quickly follow the link below to my fundraising page for all the details. On top of individual rewards for donations, I'm also creating some milestones that will result in one or maybe multiple, maybe even all audio dramas and MP3 products from spiritblade.com being available for free on a free download day that I'm planning. If I at least reach my $200 fundraising goal in donations, I will have a free download day on November 8th, 2017 at spiritblade.com. Every $50 I reach in my total beyond my $200 goal, I will add another audio drama that will be made available for free on that free download day. And if I reach $500 in my personal fundraising total, then the Legacy and Special Edition versions of the entire Spirit Blade audio drama trilogy, along with all of the song bundles, will be available for everyone completely for free on that free download day. I hope you'll be a part of helping me and the Christian Geek Central team do some good for some kids who really need it. Then please come to youtube.com/Christian Geek Central and christiangeekcentral.com to cheer me on for my 24-hour marathon starting again at 6 a.m. Pacific on Saturday, November 4th. Hope to see you then. Thanks. Bye-bye.
ChristianGeekCentral.com